Welcome to Flip Flops and Flapjack Sunday. It's kind of our way to say goodbye to summer and get ready for the fall, and that's why I'm dressed a little casually. I got business on top and party beneath, all right? So that's the fun that we're having today. I have a couple thank yous that I want to give to you as a congregation. I celebrated a birthday this week. Someone asked me how old I am. I said I'm a year older. That's where we stand with that. But on Facebook I said, if you want to help me celebrate my birthday, bring in jars of peanut butter. September is Hunger Action Month in the city of Plano, and my boys and I were able to go to the city council meeting this past Monday and receive a proclamation from Mayor Harry about how we're all encouraged to bring peanut butter to the North Texas Food Bank to help children in our area have a little bit more sustainable food sources. At least 20% of the children in Plano alone are food insecure, which means that they do not know where their next meal is going to come from. Let that sink in Plano, Texas. 20% of the children don't know where their next meal is going to come from. But if you bring jars of peanut butter in, we can help alleviate a little bit of that fear and concern. And I said that if we would get to 50 jars of peanut butter, I would sing the peanut butter and jelly song. All right? And you're not there yet, so you don't get the peanut butter and jelly song. Someone said, but Pastor Paul, there are at least 50 pounds of peanut butter out there. And I said, not good. No, 50 jars is what we need. So I think we'll be there by the end of today, and I'll put something on Facebook of me humiliating myself. I also want to thank you as a congregation for so many of you who have stepped forward to help our brothers and sisters in the Gulf Coast after Hurricane Harvey. On Tuesday of this week, I spoke with our council and said, what should we do as a congregation to respond to the great need that's down there? And they said, why don't we go ahead and release early gift of $3,000 to go to Lutheran Disaster Response and let the congregation know if they want to contribute to that, they can, and we'll send this big check down to the Gulf Coast area. And so we put an email out, and within 4 days, online only, y'all have given over $9,000. So you bring our total to $12,000. So way to go, church. Thank you so much. You can clap for that, Jeff. My closet Baptist doesn't mind clapping in worship, so thanks, Jeff. You can clap for good things that the Spirit is doing through us. So thank you so much. I fully expect by the end of worship, after we've counted the checks that y'all put in, we'll be able to send $15,000. It's going to Lutheran Disaster Response, which shows up and coordinates efforts with FEMA and all kinds of other relief agencies. And then those gifts will also go to the Gulf Coast Synod and the Southwest Texas Synod. Many of those churches were severely affected. They're mucking and gutting those churches as we speak. And so these funds will go to them to help them rebuild their churches so that they can better serve their neighborhoods through this time. So thank you to so many of you who have given so far already. We are truly a congregation who values joyful generosity. We've seen God come through for us on so many of God's promises to raise us up as a people who proclaim Christ's grace in action. And we know that God has blessed us in order to be a blessing. God doesn't bless you just so you can be blessed. God blesses you in order to be a blessing. So I want to thank you for living out your faith in that special kind of way. I can't tell you how meaningful and encouraging these gifts will be to those who will receive them. Today we hear about Jesus' very serious mission to rescue our world from its broken ways. He has just promised Peter a promotion to founding partner in this gospel movement called the church. And that promotion came after Peter's spirit-filled confession to proclaim Jesus as the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And now Jesus goes on to describe what the work of the Messiah will look like. Jesus says that he will go to Jerusalem, where he will be unfairly tried, tortured, and killed by the authorities. And after being dead for 3 days, God will raise him up. Imagine as one of the disciples sitting at Jesus' feet, what it would be like to hear your leader who has inspired such hope and confidence in you, that he announces that this great movement that you all have been a part of will come to this kind of end. There will be no fighting, no rebellion, no coup. The authorities will have their way, Jesus will accept it, and then God will do something impossible. If it sounds like a tale of sound and fury, it might be. You can see why Peter would have such a strong reaction to Jesus' understanding of his very own mission. You see, Peter and the other disciples signed up to be part of a rebellion that would bring down the Roman Empire and the Jewish authorities that had abandoned the instructions of their faith. They expected Jesus to be a warrior Messiah who would take their country back. And this news of being simply arrested, tried, tortured, and killed is not part of their vision of establishing God's kingdom. It doesn't sit well with them. And so Peter takes Jesus aside and rebukes him like a parent scolding a child who's been caught with a hand in the cookie jar. Jesus isn't having any of that insubordination. He calls Peter Satan and tells him to get behind him. Now, in calling out Peter, Jesus reveals to us what the difference between God, Satan, and us truly is. We and Satan only like to think about human things. We don't set our mind on God's ways. We're satisfied to think on lesser things and not elevate our thinking to imagine the ways that God can see this world. Peter thinks that you can't save the world by dying and rising. Jesus trusts that you can. Satan thinks that things will always be the way that they are. Jesus trusts that a new day is coming. We live with so much fear in our lives that our irrational thinking ridicules common sense approaches to life's problems. But Jesus chooses faith every moment over fear. Faith expands our minds. Fear locks us in. Can I ask you today, what do you have your mind set on? What do you have your mind set on? What's occupying your thoughts these days? What's motivating your behavior? What's driving your actions in our world? What's your mind set on? Are you simply going through the motions, hoping that this path that you're on will lead you to some kind of happiness in your life? Are you living as a victim of your own circumstances, thinking that you are powerless to control anything that life is doing to you? Are you caught up in fear and anxiety and living with a sense of scarcity in your life, so you begin to hoard things up at any chance that you can get? What is your mind set on? I often hear people say that America is a Christian nation, and I wonder about America's mind. As a pastor in Jesus' church and a steward of the gospel message, my hair kind of bristles when I hear that proclamation. Jesus shows us that there is only one Christian nation in this world, and it's called the church. The church is filled with people of all races and genders and nationalities and ages, and it has no boundaries. And this nation of the church is guided by the cross. America can be guided, should be guided by Christian principles, but the only Christian nation in the world is the church, according to the Bible. But if we say that America is predominantly filled with Christians, I have to ask about our mindset. Why are we so afraid? Why is fear the thing that our minds are set on? Why don't we choose faith when given more of the opportunity to do that? I'm here to admit to you today that I participated in the hysteria of the gas shortages at the end of this week because of all the fears of Hurricane Harvey taking away all of our gas supplies. Susan saw a message go out on our HOA's Facebook page that all the people in our neighborhood were flocking to our neighborhood gas station to fill up, and she asked me what I thought we should do. And I had two thoughts in my mind. The first one is, this is absolutely ridiculous. We know that there is enough gas to go around. The second thought is, I'm getting in the car and I'm going to the gas station because I was fearful of all the other fearful people who were going to gobble up all of the gas. So I went out there. And we can pass the blame around about who created this hysteria, whether it was social media or the actual media. But at the end of the day, our minds are set on so much fear that we accepted the rumors of oncoming gas shortages, and we all sat in long lines to make sure that we had enough to make it through the weekend. Fear is the default setting for our minds, but faith is what God calls us to. In our readings today, I hear Jesus asking us, what's your mind set on? And if we are honest with ourselves, our answer will be, they are set on human things. Fear is what makes Peter yell at Jesus because of the kind of vision that Jesus has and why Peter thinks it's wrong. Peter didn't want to be associated with a leader who was going to accept defeat so easily. He wanted to go down with a fight. He didn't want to sit silently beside and watch God do all of the work. Peter's mind was set on fear, on losing power, and a short-sighted vision of what God's kingdom is all about. What's your mind set on? Jesus' response to Peter and to all who would listen is, if you want to be my followers, take up your cross. If you want to save your life, lose it. What does it look like to take up your cross, to take up your death? Usually we associate really somber things with death, and this makes us sorrowful and depressed. It makes us serious and intense. And it's no wonder that many people look at Christians as joyless people who have no fun. We're always concerned about our death. I want to make the point this morning that the Apostle Paul paints for us best what it looks like for us to take up the cross and follow Jesus. And the reading that we have from Romans 12, 9 through 21, is the Apostle Paul's best list on what a cross-carrying life looks like. And if you will, pick up these black books in your pews. They're called the Bibles. Turn to page 948. And I want to go through the Apostle Paul's list, one by one through those verses. I actually think I could preach a sermon on each of the sentences that are here. Lord knows that our broken world needs to hear those kinds of messages, but I won't do that this morning. Instead, I'm going to read through this list, and I want you to pay attention to the phrase or phrases that jump out at you. I actually believe that God is going to speak to you this morning about your mindset. I think that God is going to call out something in you that your mind has been dwelling on, and God is about to reset your mind so that you can dwell on God's thoughts. So be on the lookout for that phrase or phrases that jump out at you. Don't be thinking about your spouse or the person at the end of the pew or your neighbor and what you think they ought to hear right now. Think about yourself and what your mind is set on. And as I read through this list, I want us to hear this list as the Apostle Paul answering the question, what does it look like to take up my cross? Does taking up my cross mean that I need to be a person who abstains from any kind of fun, one who dwells in the seriousness of death always? Or does it mean something entirely different? Let's listen to the Apostle Paul here. Romans 12, verse 9. Let love be genuine. Abhor what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Genuine love doesn't have an agenda. Genuine love isn't loving someone for the sake that they will simply love you back, for that kind of expectation. Genuine love is what happens next. You love one another with brotherly affection. You outdo one another in showing honor. Honor is a lost trait in our world. What does it mean to look like to have competitions where we outdo one each other, not in physical feats of strength, but we outdo one another in honor? Do not be slothful in zeal. Be fervent in spirit. Serve the Lord. You can't be a lazy Christian. You can't be lazy. Do not be slothful in zeal. You can't let others run into the fight before you. You get after the action when action needs to be taken. Do not be slothful in zeal. Be fervent in spirit. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer. There are things going to happen in your life and things that surely are happening all around us. Hurricane Harvey is no shortage on that people go through suffering in your life. But it can't take away your hope because that's sealed for you in courts above. That's sealed for you in God's throne room. Be patient in tribulation. We're so impatient with any kind of suffering that comes our way. That's why patience is a fruit of the Spirit. We are patient in tribulation. We're constant in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints and seek to show hospitality. Are you all aware of the story of Mattress Mac from the Houston area? So it was about this time last week. I'm driving home and I'm listening to NPR on the radio, and they flipped over to the NPR station in Houston, giving us live coverage of what's going on. Hurricane Harvey is just beginning to dump this torrential downpour on Houston. And I hear the actual phone call from Mattress Mac into the NPR station saying, I've got these furniture stores all around Houston. If any of you are stuck and abandoned, you don't have a place to go, come on into my furniture stores. We'll take care of you. We'll feed you. We'll give you a place to stay. We'll do this together. And the guy opens up millions of dollars of his showroom to allow folks to ride out Hurricane Harvey on a Tempur-Pedic mattress, right? What an amazing gift. Give hospitality to strangers. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Never be conceited. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. How many times have you taken vengeance out of God's hand, thinking that you knew better about how to take care of things in your life? Leave it up to the Lord. To the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. For by so doing you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Evil is always out there, looking to overcome us like a big flood. Can't be overcome by it. Be overcome by good at every single moment. We have to admit to ourselves that this list is pretty aspirational. It seems like it's pretty pie in the sky. And if it seems far out of reach for you, it is because it is. These words that come to us are God's thoughts. They're not our own. We would rather choose other things than the good at times. We are not that strong to be able to do all the stuff every moment of the day, every day of our lives. We cannot achieve these on our own. We can't be perfect in this kind of cross-carrying life, which is why we need Jesus to go to Jerusalem, to be unfairly tried, to be tortured, to be put up on the cross, and then 3 days later to come back again. Without that key piece of his death and resurrection, our minds would always be stuck on lesser things. We need Jesus to show us what it truly looks like to carry the cross, to bless the very people who put him there, to die at their hands, and to not call down the reinforcements of heaven to smite them, but to return after death and to offer the gift of new life for all people. I hope you had the eyes to see the ways that so many people took up their cross this week and they rushed toward the ravaging waters and the winds of Hurricane Harvey to help others. I hope you had the eyes to see Jesus empowering so many to band together, to live in harmony, to contribute to the needs of others, to show hospitality to strangers. I hope you give thanks to the Holy Spirit for moving among us to stir up generosity so that we can help others gain hope again. May Jesus make you strong to take up your cross, reset your mind, and find the promise of life that he is holding for you. May Jesus do this for all of us. Amen.